All right, friends, I am so glad it's Saturday. I wanted to take just a minute and give you an update on week 2 of the legislative session, and man, it was kind of crazy. Got some important bills through and working on some really important things, and just wanted to give you an update. I mean, there's some things that it's so almost impossible to try to write and capture in writing that I thought maybe just telling you the story might be helpful. We had the bill in the Education Committee on Tuesday, and I think you've probably seen some of the things on the news about that. This is House Bill 29. And House Bill 29 comes from the bill that I did in 2022, the Sensitive Material Bill, House Bill 374. And that bill came about because I had a bunch of mothers that came to me and said, please, can you please help us? We've got things in our children's school that are horrific. We don't even dare to speak about, but they're in our children's school, and our school districts won't listen to us. They won't let us even read the material, share what the nature of the material is, and they won't take it out of our schools. And I said, when they told me the kind of materials they were talking about, I said, there's no way. There is no way that is in our schools. And they said, you have to see this. You have to see this. And so we went that very afternoon and we met, and they showed me. They had a whole binder that these mothers had prepared of the kinds of materials in our children's schools throughout Utah. And it is just X-rated. I mean, there's no other way to describe it than X-rated. This is not To Kill a Mockingbird. This is not Catcher in the Rye. It is nothing like that. These are full-on pornographic materials. In fact, so bad are these materials, and I think that the committee hearing this week really illustrated it. We had the Utah Education Association, the American Federation of Teachers, the Utah Library Association, and the Utah chapter of the ACLU all opposed House Bill 29 this week. And they said, first of all, this material is just not that bad, and we can't have just a few districts throughout the state making decisions on this material for the whole state. And I said, well, okay, you're making the claim the material's not that bad. Let's just take a look at some of them. And I started to read a prepositional phrase that didn't have a single bad word in it. And all of the people on the other side of the aisle objected, just screamed, hollered in committee, objection, point of order, point of order. We can't have this in material. And I said, Madam Chair, I didn't read a single bad word. I didn't say anything bad. And then their response was, well, we know what's coming. We know what's coming. I'm like, well, isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? If we can't talk about the content, the destructive, dangerous, pornographic content in our children's school, even in a legislative meeting, does it make any sense that it's in our children's schools? And it is. And so that's really how bad this is. We can't talk about the material in a legislative meeting because it is so graphic and horrific and pornographic. We can't talk about it in a school board meeting because it's so graphic and horrific and pornographic. And yet it sits in the schools for your children. This is not right. This is so horrific and bad. We need to pass House Bill 29. It's on its way to the floor now. But the media and the discussions are, well, this is book banning. It's nothing of the sort. It's nothing of the sort. We've always protected children, always. We know there are things that are not appropriate for children. In fact, I like the story. You may know Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom was in World War II Germany, Nazi Germany. She was a Jew. With her father, she was traveling. Her father was a watchmaker, and she's on the train, and her father was out buying parts, and they're coming back on the train. He's got a case full of parts and equipment. And at one point on the journey, on the train back home, Corrie blurts out something to her father, and she says, Daddy, what is sex? And he didn't respond to her. He just didn't respond, which was unusual because they had a very relationship where they could talk about anything, she thought, as she was writing. And she said he just went silent. He didn't say anything to her. And as they got to the destination, he told Corrie, he said, Corrie, would you pick up and carry my case for me? and she was just a little girl, and she remembers reaching down and trying to pick up the case and trying to lift it. She couldn't even lift it off the ground. And she said, "Daddy, I can't. It's too heavy." And he said, "That's right, Corey. There are some things that are too heavy for children. And as adults, we carry those for them until they're older and they can carry that on their own." He said, "The question you asked me about sex, that's one of those things. It's too heavy for children. And when you're older, you can carry that by yourself." And that's how we should be protecting children, not sexualizing children in our schools. Now, I'm going to ask a favor of you. And in order to have the conversation about this and to understand what's happening in the media, I need to ask a very special favor. Please go to ratedbooks.org. This is a website put together by the parents on their own time, on their own money, to show people the type of just horrific, sexual, indecent material that are in our children's schools. And you can look up the Jordan School District, and you can look up the 4s and the 5s, the books that are rated 4 and 5 in our schools right now. And read the comments, read the excerpts from these materials that are in our schools right now. And you'll see how terrible this is. It's understandable that we don't want to hear this in a legislative meeting of adults, but to then say, therefore, we're not going to talk about getting it immediately out of the schools for our children, it just shows you how ridiculous it is, and that the teachers' unions and the library associations would step up and try to hide and paper over how bad this material is and defeat and speak against the bill. It really is so disappointing. It's so terribly disappointing. But please, ratedbooks.org, the books that are rated 4 and 5, you can search by school district, and you can search by book, and you can click, there's a place where you can just look at the materials that are rated 4 and 5. And please look at that. And then please stand with me. Let's protect our children. We've got resolutions that the legislature has done with the governor, highlighting and identifying that pornography is a public health crisis. It actually affects the mental development, the actual brain development of our children. And yet it's right there in our schools. So please look at that. And I almost hate to ask you to do that, because I feel like my soul's been burdened by the types of things I've seen from materials in our children's schools. But in order to understand this debate, the newspapers aren't telling you this, the news stations aren't telling you this, heaven forbid the teachers' union and the education associations are not telling you how bad this material is. So please, do your children a favor, do our community a favor, just go look and go look at 4 or 5 of these. Read the comments of the types of things these books are addressing, and I believe you'll be shocked, like I have been, that we've got to clean up the materials in our schools. We need to protect our children. There's so limited shelf space in our schools. We need to make sure that limited, scarce shelf space has the best, the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, the positive books and literature for our children, and not take them directly into the gutter of the things that pollute and destroy and actually harm the development of their brains, of their social interactions, of their family interactions, of their impressions of what proper relationships should be like. So I need your help. House Bill 29 is going to the floor of the House soon. But then please reach out to your school board member. Tell them this is not okay. This is not okay to have this kind of material exposed to our children in our schools. If the parents want to go to Walmart and Amazon and they think that their children are enriched by this type of filth, they have the choice. It's not a book ban. So many people throw around the word book burning and book banning. That is hyperbole, and it's irresponsible. This is not a book ban. It's not burning books. It's not banning books. This is what we've done throughout the ages. We protect children because some things are too heavy and too hard for children to bear. And so please look and see and understand what this material is. Contact your school board member and tell them, get this out immediately. Follow House Bill 374 from 2022 immediately. Stand up, for Pete's sakes, and protect our children and speak out. So far, there's been exactly one education personnel. The superintendent from Washington School District 2 years ago is the only education person that has stepped out to speak in favor of these bills to protect our children. So tell your school board members, speak out. Don't just remain on the sidelines and silent. Speak out to pass these bills and protect our children now.